you know that I have 3 children. And they are the loves of my life, the kind of my reasons for breathing. And recently I have been struck by how much they aren't babies anymore. And it may be because I can hardly navigate the math homework that they bring home, but I no longer change diapers or rock them to sleep. I haven't watched Barney or Sesame Street in a very, very long time. I've said goodbye to all of that. Parts of them have gone away from my life today. My nanny has a 2-year-old daughter named Skylar. And sometimes I can't help but scoop her up into my arms and sort of breathe in her littleness. Her innocent eyes and her cutely mispronounced words quickly bring me back to the time when my kids were very little. And it conjures up this deep longing within me. And there are some nights that I go into my kids' rooms after they are asleep and I sit on the edge of their beds and I trace the sign of the cross on their foreheads.
Okay.
And they don't know. I know that they are dying, and I knew that when I was writing this that they would be dying. But I'm there. And I sit there, and I remember their littleness, and I marvel at their bigness. As much as I want my kids to grow up, I also don't. But in many ways, they are growing up so that they can leave me and move on to new adventures in life. Changing diapers has given way to them putting away their own clothes, at least some of the time. And letting them watch cartoons has given way to them reading stories that we sit down and discuss together. And rocking them to sleep, just so I can get a few hours of sleep, has given way to me picking them up early from parties just so I can get a few hours of sleep. And scooping them up in my arms has given way to us dancing together in the kitchen. Every day, whether we realize it or not, we are saying goodbye to something. Some things are harder to let go of than others. Some goodbyes hurt more than others. And some leavings seem more permanent than others. And every day our goodbyes give way to something else, inviting us to step across a threshold. We just don't always know where it's going. The end of spring is laced with goodbyes and often conjures up memories of leaving. It is a time of graduation. It's a time that school lets out. It's often a time when people contemplate retirement or leaving on vacation. This time of year just seems like a threshold, a crossing over. Some of you may remember a few weeks ago, I talked about how sometimes we leave too early, or we leave without knowing it, or we leave because it's too painful or scary. And I talked about staying, not about leaving. But truthfully, the ebb and flow of life does include leaving. It does include saying goodbye. And as I think about my own life, I know that the leavings have been times that I have felt the most naked, the most vulnerable, and the most disoriented. This is probably true for you too. Whether it's been a deliberate leaving or a gradual leaving. Whether it's been a joyous leaving, one you've looked forward to, or one traced with tears. There is one element that is true, at least in my mind, that the promise of forever seems to be never leaving. And seemingly, Jesus doesn't agree. Because here we are on Ascension Sunday with Jesus clearly leaving. It's risky. It's risky to leave. It's just as risky to let someone go. We cross over into unknown territory. And although the geography of it all seems to be hardly the issue, the state of the heart is. We feel as if we must cross a chasm of space, which we have no idea how to navigate, and may very well swallow us up. So Jesus brings us to a place which won't swallow us up. He brings us to Bethany. He gives us a bridge we may have missed if he hadn't been so very, very deliberate about it. Because Jesus has given this a lot of thought. He doesn't just say to the disciples, well, guys, it's been nice knowing you, but I gotta go. It's not what he does. He takes them to one last place, a place that he knew very, very well. And they knew it well, too. Mary and Martha lived in Bethany. You know, these dear friends with whom he prayed and ate. Bethany is a place that felt like home. And it's also the place where Mary pours perfume all over Jesus' feet, anointing him. Bethany is a place of blessing. And it is also the place where Lazarus, whom Jesus dearly loves, died. And Jesus wept. And it is also the same place that Jesus brought Lazarus back to life. It's a place of resurrection, a place of family and friends. And Bethany is also the point from which Jesus leaves as he makes his way to Jerusalem before his crucifixion. It is the place before death. This is a place that he brings them to that is saturated with meaning, evoking every memory one could possibly dream of. And as they stand there, in this great moment before he is taken up to heaven, I can't help but imagine them feeling as if something huge is knocking on the heart of their door, beckoning them forward across a threshold, reminding them that no matter where they have been, Jesus has always faithfully crossed thresholds to meet us and carry us through, from death to life, from unknown to known, from invisible to visible, and from beyond to within. The question is how to cross. So Jesus conjures up all the longings of life, all the memories. He knows the love and the pain that they have known, and he knows that this will shape how they cross into the new threshold. He seems to say, don't forget. It's all part of you. I'm part of you. And this is the only way to cross. It's all connected. You could not have had one without the other. To know life, you would have had to have known death. To see anew, one would have had to have been blind. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I have to leave, or someone has to leave me, or when leavings just happen in my life and I can't really seem to make an ounce of sense of them, I want to squirrel that part away. I want to sort of separate myself from the leaving. And Jesus does the exact opposite. This is one of the things that sort of drives me the most crazy about Jesus, is he's always forcing me and forcing us to encounter life differently than what would be my natural inclination. In some respects, life is a whole lot of goodbyes strung together. But it's also a whole lot of hellos. We can only have the opportunity to say goodbye because we once had the opportunity to say hello. Jesus, in my opinion, sees leaving as part of the union of relationship. All that's gone before us is part of the now and is part of the future. and Jesus aims to use it. Leaving and staying and going and coming are married together for Jesus. See, maybe if Jesus hadn't taken them to Bethany, they would have had a whole different reaction. They would have felt abandoned. They would have felt lost. But they don't. They're joyous, and they go back to Jerusalem so that they can go forward. And they embrace the entirety of life, the love and sorrow, pain and healing. And these are the gifts that Jesus leaves them with. Those are the parts of him that they are entrusted with. All those things, our very own Bethanies, those are the pieces which carry us from the past into the future to cross into the threshold of life. And our Bethanies are what allow others to cross too. Shaped by the love of God we've known in the past, living today in the hope of the resurrection, we cling to the great promise of Jesus that we see even in leaving. That never will I leave you, and never will